Aloha artists, Miss Maggie here. This week we are going to do a project where you go outside and find a little piece of nature, some leaf or other natural object that has an interesting shape to it. We're not interested in what's going on inside so much as its outline, whatever that is. And then we're going to use that piece of nature as inspiration for an artwork that uses color and repetition to create an abstract painting. So, what do you need today for art class? Well, we are going to be working on your large watercolor papers. I don't think we've used the large watercolor paper yet. You probably still have it. If you don't, then a large drawing paper could work, but the watercolor is definitely better for this. You're going to want your pencil, your eraser, your Sharpie, and we're going to be painting, so you will want your paints. And with that, a paper towel, paintbrush, and a cup of water. And then, of course, you need the object itself. So, I have a couple ideas here. I'm only going to use one of them, but you will go outside and find whatever you're going to use. So, what do we need again? Your large watercolor paper, pencil, eraser, Sharpie, painting supplies, so watercolor, paintbrush, paper towel, and water, and then the leaf or other natural object that has an interesting shape. Go get your art supplies, but before you head outdoors to go find your leaf or other natural object, let's have a quick chat about what sort of object is going to work best for this project. So when I went outdoors, I found a couple different leaves. I found a calla leaf, I found a fern, and I found this one here that I'm not even sure what the name of that plant is, but I love its outline. I created an artwork earlier today using a calla leaf, and this is what that looks like. Because the calla is a pretty simple shaped leaf, I traced it a whole bunch of times to create my repetition. I think that it is just interesting enough. It has the neat little point there, it has the curves, but I think a leaf that is more interesting might be really amazing. For instance, this one here. I think when I do this one, I won't have to repeat it as many times. One, it's a little bit bigger, but also that shape is going to create some really interesting overlaps. You see how I used the overlapping in this one? I think I'm going to try this one, but I do have one other option. I have this fern here. Ferns are so beautiful. You could do a fern, but we're going to be tracing it. And this is a lot of tracing, isn't it? If you pick something that is very complicated, you're not going to want to trace it many times. If you're going to do something that's very simple, you're going to want to trace it a lot. So, when you are out looking for your leaf of choice, think about which ones have an interesting outline. And if you're going to want to have a lot of repetition on your artwork, or only a little bit of repetition on your artwork, I can't wait to see what you find outside for your art. Go and find something beautiful. I hope you found something amazing. I am going to use this leaf here. In this project today, we are going to be tracing our leaf. A lot of times in art classes with me, you know, I say, nope, you're not tracing. You need to look with your eyes, see the lines that you notice, and draw it. And so to set yourself up like this and see, but today we're going to trace. But I want to think about where my shapes are going to go. Do I want my leaf like this and then like this? Do I want it like this? Do I want it like this? How do I want it angled? And I want to have it at least 3 times, probably more like 6. And I'm going to want to have those shapes overlap. Before I start drawing, I'm going to play with how I'm going to do this. Like that. That's how I'm going to trace my first leaf. And then I'm going to trace it a bunch more times. I'm going gently around the edges, noticing those little details and being careful not to bend the leaves. And catching little things like that curve there and those little jagged edges on there and those curves. The bigger your leaf and the more interesting your leaf is, the less times you need to trace it. The smaller and simpler your leaf, the more copies of it you will want. This one is, I'd say, medium complicated. So I'm going to put 3 copies of it on here and then see, does it need more? I will decide then. See how I changed where my hand was? I want to keep my leaf from moving as I go. There I go, my first trace. Okay, where next? I'm thinking I want it overlapping. I want to fill the paper. I think right there. I'm going to try this out. It's going to be kind of symmetrical. I actually lined it up so that the points are touching. That's not something I would normally do, but I'm curious how that will look. Even though you're just tracing, take your time. Show off the details that make your leaf special. Ooh, that's really neat. It really is a mirror image that is overlapping. What next? I think I'm going to do the next one here. So I did say we're doing 3. I usually like my artwork to be more random or asymmetrical, where things are not the same on both sides, but I'm really enjoying having it be like I could have folded the paper in half and had it same on both sides. It's just how this artwork is going. You get to make your own choices about where you put your leaf or other natural object every time you trace it. Ooh. Now, here's the question. I have my leaf 3 times. That's the minimum. I have a lot of empty space over here. I think I'm going to trace it 2 more times, but I'm going to keep these times a little simpler. I think I'm going to have, so my leaf is going off the edge. You can definitely have things going off the edges. I'm going to have it like that. So it's overlapping, but just barely. Because you can definitely have some empty space on your artwork, but you want it to feel like it is full. Like when you're done painting it, it is finished, not we have empty area. What are we doing with that? Does it need something more? Make sure it has everything it needs to feel finished. Okay, there. And then should this one be symmetrical again, or should it come from another angle? I think I'm going to stop the symmetry this time. And I'm going to have one that doesn't overlap because I have lots of overlap. Just yeah. Ooh, that's going to be neat. Again, you get to decide where and how you're going to trace your leaves. I think mine is done now. I've got a little bit of empty space for balance, but I have those main parts there. Next, Sharpie your lines. Go over them carefully. Make those lines stand out. If there's anywhere where the pencil got away from you, make sure you erase those parts so that we can see the lines that we're supposed to. Okay, all my lines are Sharpied. Once you've done that, erase the pencil so that you have really clean, clear lines and none of those little bits of pencil showing through. Okay, I have that ready to paint. Once you have filled your paper with interesting shapes that overlap, you have erased them and Sharpied them, then you are ready for the next step. I'm going to look at this and I'm going to remember where my leaves really were, because when you have complicated shapes, it gets to be confusing in there, doesn't it? Now, I'm going to want to remember that while I paint, because I am going to be painting inside the leaf shapes and paying attention to where they overlap. Depending on what your red looks like exactly, it can affect the mixing. That's why we say magenta as well, because a red magenta is really the truest primary color. So we are going to use the colors so that they overlap. Like, see this red shape here? I overlapped the yellow and I overlapped the blue. Now, you can also do this where you do a wash that has more than one color inside the leaf, and then the overlaps get extra interesting and you might get some colors that are a little bit muddy, but they will be amazing all the same. So look at yours and decide, are you going to do watercolor washes that are solid colors like I did down here? Or do you think you're going to do ones that have different colors in each wash, like up here? You will get to choose. So for mine, I'm going to start by remembering where one of the leaves are, that first leaf that I traced, and I'm going to fill that leaf shape with water. And so I am using my brush carefully. I'm using the tip of the brush. I'm holding it like a pencil, and then sometimes I use the side of my brush, and I should have made sure that my brush was clean. To see that water coming out, it was not perfectly clean. Now it is. And so I am filling in that leaf shape. And yes, there's lines that are going underneath it, but those are from other leaves. And so I'm working on just this one. And I'm finding its shape and filling this leaf with water. And I think because this has so much overlapping here, I might do solid color. I love mixing those, so we'll see. Maybe I add a little bit of something else. But one way or another, I'm sticking to primaries. I think this first leaf, I'll do yellow because I had a little bit of yellow on it by accident when I started. And I want to be careful with that water. Make sure it stays in the Sharpie lines. Okay, making sure that everywhere is wet because I really want those colors to flow but stay inside the shape. Yes, that looks good. I'm gonna take my yellow and I'm gonna get lots of yellow. Make sure it's very wet, but that I have lots of color. We want bold colors for this, okay? So let your colors be nice and bold and then drop them in. And if they're having trouble flowing, help them flow a little bit. Make sure they go to the edges. Make sure you don't send the paint outside of your leaf. And I want this whole leaf yellow. Some parts might be bolder, darker value, more paint on it than others, but I'm letting that flow and spread. Ooh. I like it. There we go. Sometimes I pick it up and let it move a little bit. Ooh, there's so much water in there and it's right on the edge of the paper. I'm gonna let it drain out because it's gonna do that anyways, I think. Okay, now, I do think I'm gonna add a little bit of a different color in it, but I'm gonna do it away from where all the overlapping is happening. Just along the edge. Oops, that I don't want. I don't want any color right there. And maybe some little dots there. You can decide what to do. And there's some red and water there, just because I do love mixing colors, but we are only doing primary. Do you see how I didn't mess with it a whole lot? I just let the paint spread. And one thing I'm doing is if the paint does want to spread outside of a shape, I take the corner of my napkin and I press down right there outside that shape. And so that way the paint won't keep soaking in there. And sometimes I have to go back and do it again, but it'll be all right. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is another leaf, but I cannot do a leaf that overlaps this one. The paint is too wet. This one here overlaps. This one here overlaps. I could do one of the ones on the outside. That I can do. Here we go, adding water into this one because I do have some that I can keep painting on for now. What color shall I drop into this one? I'm going to drop blue into it. I've got lots of blue here, lots of water added to it. Sometimes just dropping it in and letting it spread is the best. But I do want it to go to the edges. So I'm doing the same thing on the edges. But you know what? See on this one, I'm being really good about not mixing it too much. But I do want the shape of the leaf to show up. So I am bringing the color to the edges. But I think this one, since it doesn't overlap, I am going to make it two colors. I am going to drop yellow in there as well into the white areas. And I'm not going to do any more to that because anything I do to this is going to mess up the beautiful stuff that's happening in there. And I want to just see what that looks like when it dries. A lot of times with watercolor washes especially, put the water on, put lots of color in, and then don't touch it anymore. Let it be. Let it become. You can always put water again on it later. How about this area up here? I'm going to do that area. And I am going to do the water in it, of course, first. And this one, I'm going to do red. And then I might add another color to it. Ooh, look at that red flow. Yes, that's how you can tell you've got lots of water and lots of paint. Each of these, when I add a color, I add one more color to it, not two, because I don't want it to get muddy. And I'm sticking with my primaries, my red, yellow, blue. I already have a red and yellow mixing some orange there. Yeah, now I'm getting some purple there. Yay, ooh, that is great. I have One more I can do without touching anything that's wet. I think that one, what color is going to look best there? What color would you make it? Now, as you play with your paints, you might have happy accidents happen. That's when things happen that you weren't expecting. But I bet you can use them to come up with creative and amazing ideas. Of course, is to have overlapping shapes of your natural object and to have it filled in with watercolor washes that show off those repeating shapes and make beautiful colors while using only primary colors. Okay, I'm gonna see if this is dry enough. It's cold to the touch and it's quite damp. The way it is right now, it's risky to keep painting. Sometimes I do and it's okay. Sometimes I do and the colors go together. And then I've got to work with it doing that. I think I'm going to take a little break, put it in the sunshine, and let it dry. And then I'll come back and do my last two leaves. Okay? I'll see you in a moment. Okay, I took a break. My leaf now, it is a lot drier. See, I can touch it with my hand. It doesn't feel cold. When your paper feels cold, you're feeling the water being cooler than the air. And so that means that the water hasn't evaporated yet. So if your paper is cold, then you probably want to let it sit. But now we're good. So I'm going to do the next leaf here. And I'm going to fill it in just like before. And some of those areas are going to overlap. Okay, what color am I going to do this time? I think this time I'm going to do red. Oops, that's not wet enough there. That's how you know if nothing's flowing. I think I might have actually missed a spot. Well, I'm going to go back in. More water. Good thing to notice and to know to do is double check. Is it really wet enough? Okay, now let's see how it does. Yes, see, now we're good. And all of this is inside that leaf. Right there. Oops. And don't get it dirty with other parts of your napkin either. Making sure that those colors are always flowing. Need a little more red in the center. Adding more water helps it flow too. And what color shall I add to it? I do want to, I think, add to the edge just like I did there. Yeah, I'm going to add blue so it has a purple edge to it. Just on the edge where nothing's overlapping. Good fun. Ooh, I love that. It's almost there. I just have one more to do, but oh, it's wet again. So I think I've just got to be patient and I've got to do something else again. If you're in the middle of reading a really good book, go back to reading it. If you've got some math problems to do 1 or 2 of those. Something that will keep me occupied while this dries out so it's ready for me. Okay, see you in a moment. Okay, how was your break? I'm back for my last go. Depending on how your shapes overlapped, you might have had a number of breaks as well. Maybe yours overlapped in a way that you only needed 1 break to get them all done. Maybe some parts took so long that you were able to keep painting in other areas while those areas dried. Every artwork is different. So I'm sharing with you the tools and techniques that will help you get through and create your masterpiece. I'm making sure that I stay in the shape of this new leaf. I did the center leaves yellow as the main color, red as the main color, and so I'm going to do this last one blue as the main color and add a little bit of yellow in, and I'm going to have a beautiful green leaf as my final piece, overlapping with some very interesting other colors. Okay, making sure those different areas that I started with are wet enough. Okay, let's see what this looks like. It really is an experiment, isn't it? We don't know until we create it. Okay, now for the blue. I'm going to start with my blue not too thick here so I can see the colors underneath. Can always add more paint. Wow, isn't that neat? Ooh, some of it's already green from the yellow leaf. And letting that blue flow a little bit and spread. Oh, wow, doesn't that look neat? Oh, I knew this last one was going to come together, bring it all together. Okay, yeah, I'm going to add a little yellow to the edges like I did in the others. Just some little hint of it. That's what I did in the other situations, just those little hints. And you don't have to do that. I just thought it looked neat to have it. And over here, I'm going to add a little bit more water. I think I don't want the blue to be too bold here in the center. So I'm actually going to pick up a little bit of the paint. A little water and a little bit of paper towel. Make sure that my paper towel, I only use the clean parts and I don't accidentally stamp the color anywhere. Oops, see that spot there? Need some pick up right there in the blue. And there we go. I think I'm going to call mine done. How did yours come out? How is it going out? What's been challenging so far? What about this project have you found interesting? I can't wait to see yours. Next quarter, I'm not going to be making new videos for you every week. I'll still send videos every so often, but not every week. But I know that each of you are so creative and in many ways, not just in drawing and painting, but I also definitely hope you keep drawing and painting. I know that when you create art, and I mean art of all kinds, because I know when you dance or sing or write poetry or stories or invent, you are creating something beautiful that goes out into the world. But I hope that you continue to create art of all kinds, because I know when you draw and paint, but also when you dance and sing and invent and write stories or poetry, that is creating something that's beautiful. And if you share it with the world, you are going to inspire people. And when you inspire people, they want to make the world a more beautiful place too. So keep making beautiful things and ideas. And so finally, here is my reflection question for you. I want you to think back to all the art videos that I have shared with you this year. Think of all the projects that we've done. What is one thing that you learned? Maybe it was a way to draw something. Maybe it was a way you used your paint. Maybe it was a new way of thinking about art that you have kept using. I would love to hear about that. What is one thing from our art videos that you have kept using or plan to use in the future? Okay, clean up your paints so that they are going to be nice and happy for next time, and let your artwork dry somewhere safe. Remember to share it on Padlet. All you have to do is click the little plus sign in the Padlet window right below this video and then upload a photo. I want to see what you've made. Please share it with me since I'm not in the classroom with you. And I know that you will keep making art. I'll see you next time. Ahui ho!